Located just over an hour north of Toronto sits an impressive and imposing fairy tale castle nestled in the woods off a country road. But if you wanted to pull over and try and experience this eye-catching roadside attraction, you would be met with a locked gate. This is Castle Village Enchanted Kingdom, a small fairy tale theme park, totally abandoned for 5 years. A beautiful park that once delighted young and old alike with its charm and whimsy, but the gates to this kingdom have been locked ever since. Join me, Alex Crew, as we explore what's left of this incredible attraction, and more importantly, tell the story of this park in hopes that it will someday get a storybook ending.
Experience one of Ontario's unique attractions this summer. Discover Castle Village Gift Shop in Midland. Browse through the castle and you'll find gifts from around the world, from brass and copperware to paintings, crystal, and much more. Fine yet practical gifts for your home or friends.
Welcome to the Castle. Castle Village Gift Shop, Bomb Beach Road, Midland.
Castle Village didn't begin as a theme park, instead starting out as a highly themed gift shop in a medieval castle that Paul de Roche built with his own 2 hands. Paul was a metal and woodworking craftsman from Midland, Ontario, located about an hour and a half north of Toronto on Lake Huron's Georgian Bay. About 10 minutes west of Midland is Bomb Beach, a smaller, more quaint option for tourists who want to avoid the crowds and noise of the world-famous Wasaga Beach, located less than 20 minutes south. Bomb Beach carved out a small tourist and amusement industry on its own, but unlike Wasaga, one more geared toward local cottagers, residents, and most of all, families. So when Paul was looking to build a gift shop to sell his handmade furniture, toys, decorations, and metalwork, a fairy tale castle located on the main road between Midland and Bomb Beach was the perfect location. I'm also pretty sure he lived in this house next door due to the yard literally connecting to the park, but I didn't want to disturb the current residents, so I didn't inquire. This location would be on the way for tourists from the GTA taking Highway 400 or Route 93 up to Bomb Beach, as well as be less than 5 minutes out of the way for those who came up Route 27. With the perfect spot picked out, Paul constructed a square-shaped castle complete with a moat, drawbridge, and accurate-sized castle turrets, adorned with knights standing guard on the roof. The attraction opened as Castle Village Gift Shop in 1972, and he began selling his handmade furniture, crafts, and metal art. Business was so good that even in the first year, Paul's pieces were selling out faster than he could make them. It was clear from the very start that the attraction was a success, and expansion occurred a few short years later. Now here's where I need to add a little disclaimer that for a 5-decade-old theme park, even a small one, there is a shocking lack of information out there on the history of this place. Dates when certain additions took place are fuzzy estimates at best, with most of the information available coming from the Midland, Ontario Facebook group and this article by Talking Walls Photography, so huge shout out and thank you to them, go check out their website. At some point in the 70s, the castle expanded to accommodate more gifts brought in from outside sources as it was impossible to keep up with the demand from selling the handmade gifts alone, bringing the range of products sold up to 10,000 different items. The basement was even dug out to include a museum of antique Canadian and American furniture. The castle finally took its full leap into a bona fide amusement attraction in 1982, however, when it would expand yet again, this time to an impressive 8,100 square feet. This allowed for a small section of arcade games and further expanded gift shop space on the first floor. In the basement, the furniture museum was replaced with a museum of medieval arms, armament, and heraldry, as over the years, the owner had amassed a large collection of medieval armor. In the basement of the newly expanded section, however, would be perhaps the most impressive addition the castle ever saw: Dracula's Dungeons.
Welcome to the castle. Come down to the dungeon, if you dare.
For a mere price, you can take the tour through the dungeon.
Don't forget our gift shop on your way out.
Yes, Castle Village, Palm Beach Road, Midland.
Dracula's Dungeons was a walk-through haunted attraction featuring some pretty impressive animatronics for 1982, especially for a small family-run park that wasn't even a theme park yet at this point, still being just a gift shop. You would enter through a spiral staircase in the gift shop above and immediately be met with a fully programmed animatronic Dracula figure floating above you, reciting lines of dialogue. Similar scenes with dialogue and programmed movements included the creation of Frankenstein's monster and a seance. Programmed figures like these were still a relatively new novelty in the first half of the 80s, and were usually reserved for major theme parks like Disney and Six Flags. It's no doubt Paul Desroches was a brilliant and talented creator, but given how advanced this attraction was for its time, I can't help but wonder if these figures were ordered from an outside company. One particular culprit comes to mind when searching for answers. The Wax Attract Company of Niagara Falls, Ontario, were the first ones to pioneer animatronics technology outside of Disneyland, and had been building and selling programmable animatronic figures since 1971. They were the ones behind Niagara's iconic House of Frankenstein and Castle Dracula attractions in the early 70s, both of which are still going strong today. You will hear a lot more about this company on this channel in the future, but in summary, after expanding their haunted castle-style attractions into the United States in the mid-70s, they began selling the concept as a package attraction for traveling carnivals and small amusement parks, as well as building their horror characters as sets for purchase. By 1980, the company was producing about 60 figures a year. I have absolutely no proof the company had any involvement in this attraction, but there's an overwhelming amount of evidence. I mean, just look at how similar this Pit in the Pendulum torture scene is to one in the House of Frankenstein. I still wouldn't be surprised for a second, however, if this was in fact something Paul Desroches built himself. Some basic animated figures done in continuous store window style animation would even be added to the park in later years, as you'll see, but nothing matching the ones in the dungeon. Rounding out the attraction were other scenes such as the Wolfman, the Mummy, a medieval torture chamber, and more. So this section of the castle is just a fire exit at the back, but we are kind of down a grade here, down a slope. So This is ground level here, but this is the basement if you come around the front of the building. So this would have been the haunted attraction right on the other side of these doors here. Possibly even the exit of it. But I have seen some limited photos inside here since it was abandoned. And the amount of black mold that I believe is probably in there. Not sure, but this might even be it growing around the seams. You can smell it. Like, that must smell as soon as you get within 2 feet of this door. Even more if you push on it. It just comes wafting out. So sad. With business stronger than ever, the once small gift shop officially became a theme park sometime in the late 80s with the addition of the Enchanted Kingdom attraction, the official name of the now 45-acre property becoming Castle Village Enchanted Kingdom. While many people use the terms theme park and amusement park interchangeably, there actually is a difference. An amusement park always contains rides, but may not have a specific theme, such as an old-school boardwalk amusement park. A theme park, however, may not even have any rides, but has one or more themed areas of the park. This is exactly where Castle Village sat. While there were no actual rides at the park, the Enchanted Kingdom was a village of fairy tale themed houses and attractions, each containing a display of a different fairy tale, nursery rhyme, or storybook. The castle turrets were also heightened and a water-spewing dragon added to the moat. By now, Paul's daughters were involved in the family business, helping him construct the whimsical fantasy village behind the castle. These truly haunting scenes you're seeing now are of this park as it tragically looks today. It is no secret if you clicked on this video where this story is sadly going. Just a few short years ago, kids could still climb and slide around the Dwarf Village slides, throw pennies into Snow White's wishing well, walk an educational nature trail, climb Merlin the Wizard's tower, and get snacks at the candy house from Hansel and Gretel. There were also some basic mechanical scenes and displays in the park, such as the 7 dwarfs in their cottage and possibly Merlin the Wizard. I haven't seen any evidence this guy moved, but look at this dude. And you have to climb a tower and cross this giant bridge to get here, so I assume it would have been one of the more impressive scenes while this place was open. Holy. The old farm equipment.
Yeah.
This goes over there to Merlin's. The lantern from the castle, I assume. Oh man. Old tools. Big oak barrels. Again, the guy who built the place was a woodworker, so would not be surprised if he made and sold these in the gift shop. Way back when. See the whole park from up here? Is that Merlin's arm? Looks a little too small. So much left in here. Merlin, however, is not. Halloween decorations and blow mold skulls over there in the corner. So retro. Such a shame that all this stuff is just decaying away. See the curved roof there too. Warped wood.
This one was hanging fake flames.
Yeah, there's another one behind you there too.
Oh, that's sick.
Jars of salamanders and bugs. Some electrical stuff down there. Perhaps more evidence that Merlin was electronic in some way. Those are like those tornado vortex things.
This place would have been so sick.
Have the fog. Yeah, this place would have been so cool, man.
This is just a flask, and these are curly straws.
They are, yeah.
That's so cool.
That is so cool. The melted wax on this plate. It's the attention to detail again. Like, they would have had the melt wax on that plate. Got a little frog chewing in there. Some bottle corks. This would have been so cool with water underneath it. Still feels so sturdy. Here's Merlin's tower. So this would have been a little river, I assume, coming under here and under there into the fountain underneath the bridge. Abandoned trailer over there. Hopefully abandoned. Here we have the pump room for the fountain. A whole bunch of supplies in there. I do not know if there is gasoline in that, so we are going to be very careful. There's some old shelving in here. You see right there, antique teddies. It was probably in the gift shop once upon a time. Man. No cool props in here or anything really though. No Merlin. The attraction prospered for many years and saw generations of visitors, with the Desroches family eventually simply moving on to pursue other interests in 2008 and putting the attraction up for sale. It was purchased in 2016 by a businessman named Dio Moreno, who really gave a good shot at bringing the now aging park into the more modern age. A small campground was added in a clearing at the back of the park, as well as archery, a wedding space and the castle for themed weddings and events, and the remodel of Dracula's dungeons from a walkthrough attraction into 3 separate escape room games. The dungeon would be the game which reused the most elements from the old walkthrough, with the other 2 games, Secret of Delicious and Sleuths, also utilizing the former scenes and chambers of the attraction. While it's definitely sad such a unique and obscure example of haunted attraction history was lost with this change, I definitely see how it would have been necessary, especially with how big escape rooms were in 2016, and they've only really gotten bigger since then. It was especially cool that the escape rooms reused nearly all the elements of Dracula's dungeons and adapted them into the modern age. There was a walkthrough video up on YouTube in the very early 2010s of the entire original attraction before the change, which I recall finding when I was younger after driving past the attraction and being curious, but the video seems to be long gone now. At the end of the 2019 season, Marino even seemed to be adding dinosaur statues, evidenced by these unfinished rebar sculptures of dinosaurs we found all over the park, endlessly awaiting their fiberglass skin. It should be stated, however, that longtime fans and visitors to the park claimed it was never the same after the original owner sold it, as nobody else could match the love he put into his attraction. The future for Castle Village seemed bright, and it looked like the park would prove to be as timeless as the fairy tales that inspired it. But then, as you've heard so many times before, 2020 arrived. The park closed for the winter one fall day in 2019, the way it had annually for decades. But before the next spring could arrive...
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The World Health Organization has now confirmed what many epidemiologists have been saying for weeks. The coronavirus is a pandemic.
Canada, they're on lockdown due to an increase in COVID cases there.
We announce that the stay-at-home orders in the hardest hit regions of the province will be extended for an additional 2 weeks.
COVID-19 and the economic shutdown have hit low-income Canadians hard, adding a layer of worry to paying the bills or going to a food bank.
Or by enforcing the rules, if that's needed.
The COVID-19 pandemic forced many businesses to close for what ended up being essentially the entire year, and the entertainment sector was hit particularly hard. Even once restrictions were lifted on and off in 2021, many families especially didn't have any free spending money. Palm Beach directly saw impacts from the pandemic, with its tourism numbers dropping and a push to orient the beach even more towards locals rather than tourists. The beach is no longer the small tourist destination it once was, and while it still swells with people on a hot summer day, upon our visit after filming the park in early September, the place was already a ghost town for the winter. I realized school was already back in and it was midweek, but it was a hot, beautiful day and the beach was still deserted. It's obvious that visitors to Palm Beach and Midland alone would no longer be able to put up the numbers to support a place like Castle Village. The amusement industry would eventually bounce back post-pandemic as people grew to miss physical, in-person experiences. But for Castle Village, it was too late. And it would never reopen following shutting its gates at the end of the 2019 season. There's glass here on the ground.
Could it be Noah's Ark?
Could be. Then maybe the new owners were like repurposing it as something else. Never finished it. It's definitely some sort of walk-through funhouse or climbing structure or something.
Yeah.
There's another rebar sculpture over here.
Hear these in the clock. the mouse. Look at the size of that wasp's nest up there. Beautiful. Wow. And the original owner did metalworking, so I guarantee you that these are handmade. He was a woodworker and metal worker, and that's how he started the gift shop. Before any of this was here, it was just the castle.
That's so cool.
This is so cool. They've got facts about the local plant life here at the back of the park. So this appears like it was the start of a nature trail of some sort here at the back of the park. It's all overgrown now.
Five years later, the park still sits in the woods. What struck us more than anything being in this park was actually how much was left totally untouched down to the smallest detail. As if these brightly colored houses and nursery rhyme characters were patiently waiting to have children come running up to them again, ready to entertain another generation of visitors in a spring season that will never come.
Remains of the big bad wolf there. And Little Red Riding Hood.
I can't describe the character this park had. It felt smaller than I expected, but despite never having actually visited here while it was operational, I felt like I could feel exactly what its atmosphere would have been like when it was open. It felt warm, quaint, cozy, humble in the fact it gave people lifelong memories, yet still perfectly self-aware that it did so, honored to have that responsibility, as evidenced by signs like this one. In a way, it somehow felt like personally knowing Paul Desroches through his work. Unfortunately, he passed away on December 8th, 2022, at 86 years old. Following the pandemic, Dio Marino listed the property for sale, which actually received a fair bit of national publicity due to the uniqueness of the listing, with the sale apparently going through in 2023. However, it would appear on the market again as early as January the following year, and has been so ever since, leading me to question if the Enchanted Kingdom has simply been absorbed into the forest. As an explorer trying to document this place, this was a dream come true, as there were absolutely no security measures here. But as someone who wants to see this park preserved, I couldn't help but feel almost offended that this park has nobody watching over it. We strictly follow the unwritten rule of take only photos, leave only footprints when exploring a place like this, but sadly, not everyone has those same intentions. We found clear evidence when exploring this place of some early signs of vandalism, mostly to the fairy tale figures. And while it seems that most people who visit this place have good intentions, it breaks my heart knowing that any bad apple could just wander in here one day. It took a lot of willpower to leave this place untouched and not rescue any of this stuff, especially knowing it was probably destined for a landfill one day, but we obviously didn't remove anything out of respect, and a solemn hope that maybe one day this will all be repaired.
There's more gnomes up there in the window. Slides going down on all sides. Look at the moss on this. Actual moss now.
These are in worse condition than the last ones here.
Oh my god, yeah, someone's been through here, man. That's so sad.
These are still okay though. Baldy locks.
What's left of her? Oh my god. Again, these bears up here, I guarantee you the wooden ones are hand carved by the original owner.
Oh yeah. Yo, check it. Reestablishing. There we go.
So sad, man. Like, this was someone's favorite place.
Yeah.
And they would have loved these sitting in their dining room or in their basement, and instead they're just...
Eat some of Mama's sawdust. I would eat some of Mama's sawdust.
That is some good looking sawdust. It's the smallest details too. Like this grapevine on top of the windowsills. It's like they weren't just trying to like build these little cottages. They're trying to give it like the detail of a Disney cartoon or an illustrated storybook.
The castle itself was unfortunately, or fortunately, locked though, and being part of the real estate listing, we didn't try and get in beyond that because we don't want to trespass. I know at some point people got in here, I believe when it was still listed for sale by one of its former owners at the time, but I guess whoever has it on the market now is being more thorough with security. I will say, however, the images I've seen from inside here are astounding. Take a look at this old entrance to the former armor museum in the basement. Not to mention the actual suits of armor still littered about the castle. There's also several of the props from the escape room still haunting the halls of the basement, including the original animatronic Dracula from the haunted house. This area is what I wanted to see most as a haunted attraction enthusiast, but as I said, we wanted to respect that the current owner has done an admittedly good job at keeping people out of here.
Look here. See the lighting? Imagine how that would have looked.
Oh yeah, all lit up at night.
Yeah, man.
This would have been gorgeous. I have not seen any photos of it at night, how it would have looked. Would have been sick. Such a shame. The iconic shield appears to have been removed at some point, I believe when the new owners took over, but I'm not sure. Look at the intricacy of these railings too. It is unfortunately very locked. So I don't think it's going to show up on camera here, but
yeah.
You can very faintly see in there. That is the mummy's chamber of the haunted attraction. Now, I don't know if these windows would have been originally blacked out, and maybe when it became the escape room, they opened them up, but it's not really showing up. You can very faintly make out the hieroglyphs there inside. But that is where the mummy was once upon a time. And here we have behind the Pepsi machine. We thought these were washrooms, but there's no signage on the door, and they actually appear to be employee showers, probably for the costume characters. like Snow White and Cinderella and stuff. Change rooms. Wonder what was in this tower here, if anything. Knowing this place, definitely something. Even just a static figure, probably.
There's so much left here.
Yeah, it would be very easy to get this operational again. All it takes is the right person. Instead of a housing development or a retail plaza.
I don't know who's gonna get it there.
Look at the size of that castle. It's just so fascinating because it's the actual store and the haunted attraction and the armory museum and everything.
Yeah.
This castle is actually as big as it looks. Like Disneyland and Disney World and basically every other fairy tale park, it's all forced perspective and angles, and this is something else, especially for a small park like this. There's a little seating area here in this gingerbread house. But it is the only one that has no scenery or anything, like an actual lock. So I'm wondering if this was a little ice cream counter or maybe a puppet show even. Does look a little small for someone to be selling food out of all day. Some sort of hookup there. There's a vent. Maybe it was a little snack bar.
I sincerely hope that Castle Village is purchased soon, and that the buyer has their eyes on the property for reasons other than a housing development or a big box store plaza. While it may not be feasible to operate the park in its original form, there's serious potential here. I don't mean to show this property in a negative light, in fact, quite the opposite, as I think if the right person buys this place, it would be pretty easy to clean all this stuff up. I think if the castle was converted into an event hall, restaurant, or even divided up into an Airbnb, the Enchanted Kingdom behind it could be easily repaired and left as a free attraction for customers of whatever the castle becomes. This incredible artwork and scenery that gave memories to generations can still be saved. Perhaps there's a childish naivety in that, as the world doesn't always work out that way. Perhaps the only reason I even feel this park can have the storybook ending it deserves is because I was inspired by a visit to Castle Village.